Welcome into Point Blank, brought to you by Fitz Roofing. I'm Brandon Stranger, Sports Map Houston. That's Joel Blank. You can catch him weekdays, noon to 3 on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5's The Killer Bees. Texans with an unlikely win in Tennessee. And before we get into it, I want to talk about some of the fan reaction on Twitter. Some fans were just absolutely upset about the win because they felt like it hurt the team's ability to get that first overall pick. The team's had a rough year. Fans have had a rough year watching it. Any other year, this is a quality win. What's the harm in this game? And, more than that, just enjoying it from a fan perspective.
I think you said it right, Brandon. The harm in this game is if it was just this game, it would be fine. But now people, just like in week one, have completely pulled another 180 and said, wait a minute, from now to the end of the season, we can still win. And we can still win and get a couple more wins and be respectable. But at this point in the season, you're not getting in the playoffs. You're not sneaking into a wild card. And the thing that you're really doing is, for all your short-term wins, are long-term defeats, because when the draft comes around, the same people that are sitting here right now preaching to me on social media, we need another one and another 2 or 3. And then on draft day goes, well, why aren't we picking in the top 5 of every round? And why can't we get this guy or trade back to get this guy? It's because you wanted wins that are irrelevant in what could be the bigger picture, which is getting better quicker through the draft and adding young, talented players. Because when you're picking at the top of every round of a draft, when you have all your draft picks, teams are coming to you and they're knocking on the door going, hey, you might not need the second best defensive end in round 1 or the third best offensive tackle in round 3, but we do. And we're willing to give you 1, 2, 3 extra picks or assets in the process. That team gets who they want. You get more players that make your roster better, so you get what you want, which is to be better every single year and turn this thing around quicker.
I think it's fair to remember that guys like Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes were not the number 1 overall picks. They were 12 and 10, respectively. Lions and Jags constantly picking high and still suck year after year. So there is something to be said about you got to do something with those picks. But I totally get what you're saying. So let's talk about that. Maybe trading back is the option here. Before we get into that, though, give us a word from Fitz Roofing.
Well, we love the people of Fitz Roofing. They're dedicated to Houstonians in so many ways, and they also back up what they say they're going to do. Starts with the best warranties, the best products, and the best ratings in the business. But more so than that, all you got to do is call them, 832-521-3001. They give you a free, no-obligation inspection where they come to you and they tell you what they can do, and then they go back on their way. But if you want them to do the job, you just book the appointment. Best customer service, and before, during, and after the sale, they take care of their customers because they love taking care of Houstonians. It's Fitz Roofing, making a difference, one home at a time.
The Texans don't need a high draft pick. They need several draft picks, as you kind of pointed out. And so if they don't get the highest pick or the first overall pick in the draft, could you make the case that maybe that makes it easier for them to trade back and to get more assets because the asking price to get that first overall pick isn't as high?
Absolutely. It goes back to making an offer that they can't refuse. That's what teams are going to do, because you may not be in a position where you have so many position groups to fill and so many good players you're looking for. It doesn't matter if you get the offensive lineman, the defensive back. Well, right now, the top 2 positions in the draft are pass rushers. Well, if you don't get the first best at a position group, then why do it when you can trade back a few spots? Someone gets a position group that they absolutely have to have, like pass rush, but you get not only the player that you've targeted all along, but a couple extra picks along the way, so maybe you get a few extra quality players that make your roster better quicker. That's what you're after. You can help other teams along the way, but what it really does in the big picture is it helps you every step of the way, because now with all these different position groups where you need help, you're fortifying your roster at each and every one of those position groups by the time you're done with the draft. And in some cases, they'll give you a pick for the following year or the year after that, and then you're getting better quicker, and the whole reset button and how quickly you can get back to respectability happens in less time, and that's huge for Texans fans.
And one of those keys to getting back to respectability is having something to build on. And we've been talking about Lovie Smith and the job he's been doing with his defense literally since training camp. We've talked about this being a different-looking defense for the Texans. And while being bad certainly benefits them from a draft positioning standpoint, is there some solace to be taken from at least you've got Lovie's defense as something to build on, since you definitely can't say that with the offense?
No question about it, Brandon, because when you think about it, what's Lovie Smith using to get the defense to play this good? A bunch of journeymen and a bunch of has-beens or never-will-be's on the roster. Think about what he could do if he had true talent, young talent and proven talent on his defense. And not to mention the fact the intangible X factor is what he's meant to David Culley, because he's been a head coach before. He's been a coordinator before. He's been with really good teams before and been the CEO. He can help guide his head coach as well as guiding a defense which right now has little to no resources but seems to still get the job done. If you keep him around in the next 2 to 3 years and you keep adding talent to his defense, think about what they're going to be as the guys you keep continue to get chemistry amongst them, and then you start fortifying that with actual true young talent that's going to get better and better, and your defense is going to be head and shoulders above where your offense and your special teams are, simply just by the fact that you're adding more resources with talent that a coach that has proven to be a good defensive coordinator can utilize to be more effective.
Especially if some of those high draft picks are defensive players, you can draft and cater to Lovie Smith's defense. So that's a really important point.